Hello everyone, welcome back. Tom with Cape with Fetish. Today on the channel, we're going to talk about hidden oral snippets on vinyl records. So back in the 80s, with the length of a CD, it was kind of common practice for people to put like a hidden track or a bonus track at the end of the CD because there was so much length, right? So sometimes after the last song would end, long extended periods of silence would happen, and then all of a sudden you'd be surprised by a hidden track. Today we're going to talk about this, but we're going to talk about it with albums, vinyl, right? Sometimes back in the days, pre-CD era, artists would incorporate snippets of untitled tracks in between, the segue of two tracks or maybe at the end of the album. So I'm going to give a few examples here. One is kind of similar to the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper Intergroove that followed A Day in the Life on the UK version. This is a US version of the Who's Sellout on Decca Records, a first pressing. And just like the UK pressing on Track Records, this one features a kind of an intergroove like the Beatles did with Sgt. Pepper. At the end of the song Rail, as the song ends, an intergroove starts as the cartridge is getting ready to take off the record. You hear Track Records, Track Records, Track Records. And they incorporated this into CD releases later on, years down the line. But it's kind of cool to hear it on an actual LP as the cartridge is lifting off. It's as clear as day, kind of cool. Another little thing that really has nothing to do with any oral snippets or anything is on this first pressing I noticed too, there is a track after I Can't Reach You on side 2 called Spotted Henry. And it's only on these first editions. Later on, it would be retitled Medak, which is very prominent in the song. They use that phrase Medak in the song. So it's kind of strange how within the song of I Can't Reach You, at the end of that song, within that whole groove, is that song Medak, but known on this version as Spotted Henry. So just a little info there. Another favorite of mine is the single called It's Wonderful by the Rascals. I picked this up as a child. They were getting rid of CDs at Kmart for like $0.25. And I picked this up, and this is one of my favorite Rascals tracks here. What makes this really, really interesting, though, is that if you could look here, if you could see here, let me see if I can pull that up. Right there, there is a second track on this 45. It has nothing to do with the song It's Wonderful. There's this track full of sound effects, but it starts off with this kind of military drum beat and this whistling. It kind of sounds like the Andy Griffith Show theme song on acid with all these sound effects and everything. And I've never seen this particular version of this song, It's Wonderful, on any other compilation or album except on this 45. So if you want to hear this in its entirety, it's on YouTube. You can check it out. It's really interesting. The song was originally on this album called Once Upon a Dream. And the weird thing about it is that those sound effects appear on the next track after It's Wonderful, but it's really brief. It's not like the full extended sound effect version like on the 45. So before the song, it's called, what is it called here? It is called I'm Gonna Love You, which comes right after It's Wonderful. They put a little bit of those sound effects from the 45 version right after that, right into that track, the next track. But I've never seen that version of It's Wonderful. Again, I've never seen that version, that 45 version on any compilation. It was never on the Timepiece collection. So kind of interesting. If you want to check it out, the full 45 version is on YouTube. Another one I've always liked, this really cool uncredited snippet at the end of the album Reckoning by REM. The last song on side 2 is called Little America. It ends, there's a little bit of silence, and then it fades into this kind of raga rock kind of thing. It goes on for maybe about 30, 40 seconds. Really cool, mysterious, a little bit eerie. You got Stipe mumbling this melodic kind of mumble jumble. You got this weird little guitar figurement going on with Peter Buck, and this really offbeat kind of drum pattern from Bill Berry. Really, really cool. It was never featured on the first editions of the CD that were released of this album back in the late 80s, early 90s. The only other time I heard it on a CD version was on the mobile fidelity version. But on these original copies or these original vinyl versions, there's this extended hidden track at the end of the song Little America, which is really cool. I thought it really ended the album on a really cool note. Another one too, from 1980, U2's first album, Boy. This was on, I know, the first pressings of this album. I know later on, the CD versions didn't have this hidden track, but it's really cool. At the end of the song, Shadows in Tall Trees, it's the last song on side 2. There's this little, I realized later down the line, it's a song called Saturday Matinee. And the melody of this little haunting snippet is the solo melody on a song called Fire, which was on the October album the following year that this came out. So it's really cool. I always loved this album. I thought it was their best album. And I thought that snippet, that uncredited titled snippet at the end of Shadows in Tall Trees was always really cool and mysterious. And if you've never heard it, check it out. Again, it was never released on any CD version, but I think it was on the extended CD version years down the line. But this is original first pressing of the Boy album, so another great one. Another one is the Damned album called Strawberries. There's tons of little uncredited snippets throughout the album. There's this 30-second harpsichord thing between the songs called Pleasure in the Pain and Life Goes On. It goes on for about 30 seconds. It has nothing to do with those songs. Just 30 seconds of harpsichord playing, and then the song Life Goes On plays. After a little bit of silence, Life Goes On starts. And then kind of similar to the album by Traffic, Heaven Is in Your Mind. On that album, the US version, they would put little snippets of the song Paper Sun in between each song. Just little quick little snippets. And then the same on side 2, mainly on side 2 of this album. There's a song that ends the album called Don't Bother Me. And pretty much from at the end of Gun Fury all the way to the end of side 2, they have a little snippet of the drum beat of Gun Fury. Sorry, not Gun Fury, Don't Bother Me playing. So that's another like little more hidden gems there within this album, this really cool album. This is my favorite Damned album, really underrated, just really, really cool album from 1982. From 1984, you have the Purple Rain album by Prince. At the end of side 1, at the end of side 1 of the track Darling Nikki, you have this backward stuff going on. You got rain going on. You got backwards vocals and choir going on. And kind of like Revolution 9 by the Beatles, if you have a turntable, you can spin it, backwards. It would go forward and it would say, hello, how are you? Fine, because the Lord is coming soon. I always thought that was really an eerie little snippet there at the end of Darling Nikki. Steely Dan's album, Pretzel Logic. Most of the original pressings had an introduction before the piano started. And the instrument is kind of like it sounds kind of like a marimba, but I think it's called a flampamba. Correct me of the pronunciation if that's not right. A flapamba. Flapamba, played by Victor Feldman, and it's on these original pressings. And I think it was on even the reissue in the early mid to late 80s. But when they remastered and remixed the album in all their albums in the early 2000s, on the CD version, they completely edit out that beginning part of Ricky Don't Lose That Number. And I always thought that was kind of a cool little introduction. Uncredited on the album, just kind of started the album really cool. But again, it's not on the remastered version from 2000. It's only on the original album. And if you could find an early CD version of it, it's on that as well. So if you have the Rolling Stones' We Love You Dandelion single, which I think is one of their most underrated A and B side singles, it's really cool because at the end of We Love You, you get this really haunting little snippet of the flip side, which is Dandelion. It's really low volume, and it's really, really kind of creepy and eerie. It's like Dandelion, it's just really low in the mix. And then if you flip over Dandelion, you get a little, at the very end of that song, a little snippet of the flip side of that, which is We Love You. And you hear a little bit of like the piano part, the main piano part in We Love You at the end of Dandelion. So that was kind of a cool thing that they did. And then one of my favorites is from the White Album. It's been between the tracks Revolution 9 and Cry Baby Cry, a song that was later retitled Can You Take Me Back. It was recorded during the I Will sessions, and if you have the White Album Super Deluxe, you can see how Paul McCartney's working through this little thing. I don't think it was ever intended or planned or anything, but I always thought it was such an eerie little inclusion after Cry Baby Cries, right before Revolution 9 started. Always loved that Can You Take Me Back snippet there. Very cool, and never credited on the album, was never, featured on the album inside. As far as tracks are concerned, it was just its own little entity. Pretty cool. And then, of course, there's this is a 1978 version of Abbey Road. This is a 1978 pressing. It does not have the song Her Majesty listed on it, but the song is definitely on there, and that was one of the best hidden tracks of all time. I remember, like, as a child hearing the end and just thinking, that was the end of the album, and that long extended silence between the end and Her Majesty, and then just bam, Her Majesty would start and end the album in 23 seconds. That was really cool. And then I gotta mention this, because when this came out, I always wondered when I heard it on the radio, where is that song available? The song I'm talking about is Train in Vain, a song that was never included on the credits of London Calling. It looked like Revolution Rock ended the album on side 4, but there was a hidden track called Train in Vain. So I don't know what the story is behind that, were these printed up before that song was included in the track listing, but it ends the album on a high note. Train in Vain became a huge hit, but not listed on the London Calling record. So there you go, folks. Those are some hidden oral snippet delights I wanted to feature today on the show. If you have any to add to the comments section, please do. As always, thanks for watching. If you dig the content, just press the subscribe button, and we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.